Hey, what's going on, guys? It's John back today with a bonus video for you guys. I want to do something really quick, and it goes kind of in line with the tutorial that I posted earlier today for the Maverick City song. So I got a comment on one of my videos, and it was talking about the best ways to not just learn chords, but how to memorize them without thinking about all the different notes, without thinking about theory, kind of just attributing everything to muscle memory. One of the people in the comment section was sharing the story with me, and they were saying how they learn songs basically fully off of muscle memory. And I think that that's great. Any way that you can figure out how to play something, I think that only it only helps you in your musical journey. Okay, but this person only learned a few songs by muscle memory and has no idea the theory behind it, but just kind of plays. How everybody plays their first song and it's all being muscle memory. When I was a kid and I learned that song, I had no idea what notes I was playing, but I knew from muscle memory what notes that I was told to play and how to play them. Okay. So I wanted to just throw this video out there really quickly to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to successfully learn songs by ear, but know what you're playing without thinking too much about the theory. Okay. Now, this is going to require you to, at the very minimum, at least know the notes and the names on the keyboard, to at least know your major scale. And if you don't know, I have videos in regards to that that I'm going to post up there somewhere. And also understanding basic triads, just basic major and minor chords, not diminished chords, not augmented chords, no seventh chords, none of that stuff, just basic major and minor. There will also be a link up there. I think I might just end up putting a playlist up there to all those videos so you can watch them in succession, so that I don't have you clicking on a bunch of stuff. But one thing that I started implementing in my teaching when I actually used to teach in my younger years, when I was teaching kids, was looking at chords as shapes. Okay. And when you look at chords as shapes, you'll start to realize that certain chords share certain shapes. And the problem is that when people practice chords, or they practice scales, or they practice all these different things, they tend to practice them in a box and then move on to another box. So if I was, for instance, trying to learn what an A major chord was. Give me 1 second here. Put that out of the way. If I was trying to learn what an A major chord was, okay, let's say somebody showed me an A major chord. I'm like, yes, okay, here's my A major chord. And now I'm just trying to figure out, let's say, the inversions for it, okay? And if you don't know what inversions are, it's basically when you rearrange these three notes, you still get the same chord, but it produces a slightly different tone or sound, or however you want to call it. So here's my different inversions for my A chord. Okay, most people will sit and practice that until they're blue in the face, until it's ingrained within their memory, which is great because that's what you want to do. You don't want to have to be thinking about, okay, this is root position, this is first inversion, this is second inversion. Second inversion has an E, A, C sharp. First inversion has a C sharp, E, A, and the root position has an A, C sharp, E. You don't want to think about that stuff when you're playing. It's not practical. When you're playing, you need to just be able to just play and go. Okay, and if you notice, this chord has a shape, so does this inversion, and so does this inversion. But then what happens if I want to learn my E chord? Then now all of a sudden, it's almost like I forgot about what I learned with A, and now I'm focusing on E. And the same amount of time that it took me to learn my A chord and its inversions, it's taking me the same amount of time to learn my E chord and its inversions. Okay? Here's the trick. Practice chords in groupings. Okay, here's the thing with music and with shapes and all this stuff. Music is very mathematical, and the thing is that the math is never going to lie. And when you look at shapes, we're talking about geometrical things that if you add up each corner, it equals out to be the same shape every single time. I want you guys to look at this. Look at my hand shape, and also look at the virtual keyboard, because I think that depending on how you visually learn, you might see the pattern that I'm talking about here. If I play this A chord, let's not even worry about the notes that are being played. Forget the notes at the top. I know it says A, C sharp, E. Forget about that. Just look at the purple notes on the screen. Look at that shape. To me, I call that a house chord. That's what I used to call it for the kids. I used to call it a house chord, because if you look at it, these two white notes are the sides of the house. And if you connect them to the middle in a point, you get a little house or a hut. Okay. So I call these house chords. Well, guess what happens if I play my D major chord and my E major chord? They're the same shape, the exact same shape. So here's the thing. If these chords share the same shape, that means that they share the same shape for all of their inversions as well, which means that if I play an A chord in first inversion, I don't have to think much about my D chord. If I burn that shape into my memory, if I burn these shapes into my memory, if I move to another chord with the same shape, it's the exact same position. So when you're trying to practice your chords, practice them in groupings. You're always going to have at the very least 3 chords that share the same shape. There's going to be some chords where you actually share across multiple chords. So let's take a look at C major, for instance. So same thing, the same concept that I just told you before. If it's the same shape, then that means that no matter what inversion you play, if you play another chord with the same shape, it's going to have that same exact inversion shape. Okay. Chords that are similar to C, well, we have C, F, and G. Okay. All white notes. Okay. Where you're play a note, skip a note, play a note, skip a note, play a note. Okay. Those kind of chords. Those are just 3 major chords. But look at this. If I play A minor, D minor, and E minor, they're all the same shape as well. So if I play my C chord and I practice all of my inversions in the key of C, guess what? Now for the key of F, the key of G, chords, the chord of F, G major, A minor, D minor, and E minor, I now know all 5 of those shapes and their inversions by practicing one chord. Mind blown, right? So if you think about practicing your chords in groupings, that's going to help you get the muscle memory down so much quicker. You're talking about 5 chords in addition to all their inversions. So you would do 5 times 3, and that's how many different shapes that you would learn just by practicing one chord. That's crazy, okay? And at this particular point, again, I'm not thinking about them as letters or numbers. I'm not even doing any of that stuff. This is why I said you need to have just a basic understanding of major and minor chords, okay? And in this case, a basic understanding of inversions, which isn't really a concept in, that is heavy for you. It's just changing the order of the notes that you're playing. Something very, very simple. You're just applying a new technique to something that you already know. So if you already know your basic major and minor chords, adding inversions on top of that is just telling you a different way how to play them. It's not anything new you have to learn as far as theory is concerned. So keep that in mind. Don't be afraid of your inversions. Once you do that and you go through the keyboard, you're literally doubling, tripling, and quadrupling the amount of options that you have when you play, which is why when you play songs like you do in the Maverick City stuff, where they're doing all of these chords here, when I'm playing, I'm not thinking about any of the chords that I'm playing. I'm just letting my fingers move in regards to the shapes that I am corresponding with the sounds that I want to hear. Okay? I am associating these different shapes with the sound that I know is associated with them. So when you're practicing, here's tip number 2. When you're practicing your inversions, really, really lock in the type of sound that you get when you play a certain inversion. If I want something to sound warm, I'm not going to play an inversion where all these notes are super bright up here. I'm going to play an inversion where the notes are down here. Right? So that way, as I'm playing and I'm going through all my chords, I'm not thinking about all of that housekeeping stuff. I'm not thinking about, okay, well, if I want it to sound warm, I got to play this inversion and play this here. No. Music is complete freedom, okay? And I'm hoping that you guys are understanding me. I'm hoping that this is coming across the correct way. There is no fast track way to getting this stuff. You just have to get in there and put in the practice time. The more time that you spend practicing and the more time that you spend listening to music is practice. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There is something that I was speaking with one of my students recently about visual training, and I'm an anime nerd, so forgive me for this analogy. Any of you who have watched Dragon Ball Z before, if you look in the Frieza saga where Gohan and Krillin and Bulma are on their way to planet Namek, Gohan and Krillin are sitting in the ship, sitting in front of each other Indian style with their eyes closed, jumping into each other's minds to train themselves, okay? And I always thought that was the coolest thing when I was a kid. The same thing is true in real life. I literally took off playing piano for about 2 or so years when I was at my church and we were out of a drummer and we didn't have a bass player. And I literally played drums for 1.5 years. And then for the rest of the time I was playing bass, I did not touch a keyboard that entire time. But what I was doing was ingesting music constantly. And as I was ingesting that music, I was visualizing myself playing those different chords. Even if the fingering was, if the notes were wrong, I was still getting the rhythms down. I was getting the feel of what it would look like if I played those chords. And if you can look at the bottom of the screen where you see my hands, this is what I would visualize. If you could close your eyes and all you would just see is your hands playing through chords, that is how I was practicing. It was all mental. If you can practice up here, then this isn't a problem, because remember, your mind is what's controlling your fingers. And if you can wrap your mind around a concept and repeatedly run through those simulations in your head, when you get to your keyboard, it's going to be so much easier. I promise you, at the end of it, it will. So don't get discouraged if you can't find the hours and the time to actually put into sitting at the piano. Yes, that is important, but you can put in so much time where you're listening to a podcast, whether you're listening to YouTube videos, or you're just sitting around watching TV. Why don't you change that up a little bit? If you have a commute to work, well, I know people aren't commuting right now with all this lockdown stuff going on. But if you're driving somewhere and it takes about an hour, put on some music for an hour and just critically listen to it. I mean, get all of the fun stuff out of the way, but then critically listen to what's going on. And don't just listen to the piano. Listen to the bass player, listen to the drummer, listen to the singer. You can learn so much from those different instruments that you can then implement in your keyboard playing. Okay. And then try and test yourself. Can you figure out what the chord progression is, or do you have an idea of what it might be? Then when you get back home, you can come to your keyboard and actually have something that is a goal for you. So set those different goals for you, listen to the music. And that's really all that I can say as far as trying to get better at just playing and not thinking so much about what you're playing. I didn't intend for this video to be too long, and I have no clue how long it is. I'm one take wonder over here, no edits. But I do want to instill that in you guys. Okay, I want you guys to have the quarterback mentality when you're listening to music. What is quarterback mentality? And this is the last thing. A quarterback doesn't just think about his role as a quarterback. He has to understand the roles of his teammates. He has to know how far that lineman is going out. He has to know how long the defensive line has to hold. He has to know all the different positions in his team so that he can readily be able to meet them where they're at. Okay. And the only reason why I say this is because I think this is important for any musician. When you're talking about playing with a band, whether you played with them for a long time or it's your first time playing with them, you got called up for a gig for musicians you don't even know. Each musician needs to have that quarterback mentality, because as a bass player, I need to know what ranges the guitar player is playing in. I need to understand what the drummer is doing as far as the rhythm is concerned so I can stay in sync with the rhythm section. As a keyboard player, I need to understand where the bass player is so I don't step on him by playing in all these low registers over here. I need to understand what the guitar player is playing so that my frequencies don't clash with the guitar player. I need to understand where the drummer's going so that if I'm comping something or doing something rhythmic, that it goes with what the drummer's doing. You will have no idea what to do if you don't understand the other positions of those musicians and what they do. Okay, so keep that in mind. That was just going to be the quick tip for this video. If you guys have any questions in regards to anything that I've said, or if things are just not clicking, let me know down in the comment section below. I'm definitely able to discuss a little bit more. And if it requires another video, it requires another video. But I did want to do that for you guys. That was a request from one of the people who commented on one of my recent videos. I hope that this was helpful to you. Don't get discouraged if things aren't going as fast as they should. If as long as fast as you think they should, I should say. But I would just say be encouraged, keep going at it, and eventually there will come a point where everything will just click. And once you hit that click moment, that's when the floodgates will be open and you're just going to be learning stuff like crazy. You're going to be wondering, what the heck was I doing before? But that's going to be it for this video. Comment down below if this was helpful. Remember to like, share this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.